Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on engaging students in computer science through project-based learning. I'm going to go ahead and wait. It's 1 o'clock now or 2 o'clock Eastern time now. I'm going to go ahead and wait just a few more minutes to let people come in. But while you're waiting, if you want to go ahead and tell us in the chat, tell us where you're from, that would be great. And welcome. We have over 750 people registered for today's webinar, so I'm very excited.
New Hampshire, Dallas.
Oh, exciting. Yeah, I see people coming in right now. This is great. Arizona. Okay, we'll just wait another minute while people come on in. Great. Okay, we'll get started. So good afternoon. I'm Maggie O'Brien, and I'm pleased to welcome you to today's webinar. We have an amazing group of presenters that I'm excited to introduce you to. We have George Valenzuela from Lifelong Learning Defined, Tamara Billings and Brandy Stroker from the Tennessee STEM Innovation Network, and Ken Kirby from Marshall County Schools. But before we begin, I'd like to share a few housekeeping items. If you're having any audio issues, please check the audio setting on your computer as well as your speaker volume. And if the webinar console freezes, try refreshing your browser. Also, we really encourage you to ask questions, so please type them in the chat box as the presenters present, and then we'll try to answer as many as possible at the end of each presentation. And finally, an on-demand archive of today's presentation will be available to you through email and on our site in the next 24 hours. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to our keynote speaker and host of the webinar, George Valenzuela. George, thank you for joining us. George is a well-regarded and nationally recognized education coach, author, and speaker at Lifelong Learning Defined. He got his start in education and has helped countless educators improve their leadership and instructional innovation skills. George specializes in emphasizing core instruction and professional training in team building, project-based learning, STEM pathways, and SEL integration across the curriculum. He has authored several books and is the host of the Lifelong Learning Defined podcast. And you can click there on the QR code to go to his site to get all of these wonderful resources. So welcome, George. Thank you for joining us today, and I'm going to pass it over to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And before beginning, I want to thank Maggie O'Brien and the entire team at Defined Learning for inviting me and having me here today. As stated previously, my name is George, and I'm moderating our webinar today. I have 20 years of experience as both a classroom and online teacher, as a district administrator, and now as an education coach, author, and advocate. And in my current context, I'm a teacher at Old Dominion University in Virginia, and I'm the lead coach at Lifelong Learning Defined. I also coach educators on behalf of several top organizations in our country, like ASCD, Solution Tree, and Corwin, among others. And in these spaces, I coach thousands of educators all over the world, including my own students in the following topics. Take a moment to read these, and don't worry if you can't capture it all, it is being recorded. I'm a published researcher in the Journal of Computer Science Integration, and I'm also the author of several books and guides, including my brand new book, Raising Equity Through SEL, through Solution Tree and ISTE. Now, I would like to start at the very beginning of my computer science story, which began in the 10th grade. And here's a snapshot of who I was in 10th grade. Please take a moment and read the bullets. These are some of the challenges that I was dealing with at the time. And I'm showing you this because in my coaching work, I'm in schools every week. And I meet lots of young people that are facing similar struggles. So I know that many of you do relate and do empathize and are teaching in populations like the one that I belong to. So in 10th grade, I would sit in the back of my geometry class and watch Mr. Nichols draw shapes on the board. And I would sit there and wonder, why are we learning this? Now, let me look into the chat. Give me a thumbs up, a virtual thumbs up, if you have ever felt, why am I learning this? Let me see what folks are saying out there. Yeah. And so I was a pretty bold kid. And one day I walked up to him after class and I said, Mr. Nichols, why are we learning this? And he didn't know either. After a short but awkward pause, he looks at me and says, George, learn it now to use it later. Now, to a kid whose main focus in life was to play sports and socialize and wanting to find a date for the prom, but also to feel loved, to feel safe, and to feel accepted, was learn it now to use it later a good answer? I don't think so. And if you think about most human behavior, both positive and negative, it's really for these three things. So after talking to Mr. Nichols, I went straight to my school counselor and I asked her, ma'am, how much math do I need to take in order to graduate? So she said to me, after 10th grade, you are good to go. So what do you think I did? And I'll look into the chat. Do you think I kept on taking math or I stopped? Let's see what the folks are saying around the country. I stopped. Yeah, and I want to point out for young people that don't come from a strong family background, that don't have those advocates, right? Sometimes we get the wrong advice. So fast forward to college, where all my friends and I declared computer science as our major. SUNY Old Westbury was my school in New York. And in order to get placed in the computer science program, I had to take entry-level exams in reading, writing, and you guessed it, mathematics. I went straight to remediation and into a class called college algebra. I'm sure you've heard of it. And luckily, I was able to recall most of the formulas I learned in high school and got an A. But that strategy did not work in pre-calculus. I went straight to tutoring, and those guys only helped their friends and pretty girls. So I had to hire a tutor. I hired a tutor. His name was Sean. He's from Barbados, one of my very good friends. And he was a master computer programmer at the time and in math. And he charged me $10 an hour. That was back in 1997. So I'm showing my age here. And that was a lot of money for me. But on the very first day of tutoring, I said, Sean, why in the world am I taking 4 high-level math courses? And he said, George, a computer is made up of 2 things, hardware and software. Hardware is anything you can touch, anything tangible. Software are the applications that make the hardware work. Now, this is 1997. I didn't own a computer. I had no idea what he was talking about. So I said, I don't understand. He said, okay, what do you like to do? And this is a question that no teacher had previously asked. What do you like to do? So at the time I was 19, I hadn't done anything yet. So I said, I like to play video games. He said, okay, take Street Fighter. Do we all know Street Fighter? So let me look in the chat. Do we know Street Fighter? Or am I the only old person here? Okay, yeah, I'm not in PowerPoint on purpose, y'all. I'm not in PowerPoint on purpose. So he said, when 2 Street Fighters are fighting and one strikes the other in the face, the logic block says, if this, else then. So in layman's, what that means is this: if he gets struck in the face, either he will get struck, he will block, or he will duck. A computer programmer wrote a logic block of code, which we call an algorithm, to make that happen. And as a Street Fighter jumps around the screen and uses other complex techniques, other algorithms are written into data structures to make that happen. That was the first time that a teacher ever connected something I'm learning in school to something I'm interested in, which it ties back to PBL. I got a B- in pre-calculus and an A- in calculus. Fast forward a few years where I found out that I would be getting a contract for $37,000 to work in New York City at a computer firm. And to make a long story short, my dearest auntie who passed away, her name is Mrs. Best, about 6 years ago, she was a teacher. And she said to me, I think you should be a teacher. And I'll be honest, I didn't see that at first. And she said to me, well, we have a summer school program for $36.50 an hour. In a nutshell, I was making $700 a week for 20 hours to work with young people. And when I walked into the classroom, I met 25 learners who did not know why they were learning reading, writing, math, and science the same way I didn't know why I was learning math and social studies in school. And I wanted to help them. And so they changed the entire trajectory, not just of my career, but also my life, which is why I'm here now. So before moving forward, though, I want to define computer science for a moment. So computer science is part of computing education. And as the foundation for all computing, CS, or computer science, is the study of computers and algorithmic processes, including their principles, their hardware and software designs, their applications, and their impact on society. So I just wanted to take care of that. Based on some of my early setbacks, where would you think that I could be today? And I want you to think of your students as well. And as a reminder, here's the slide. Let me look in the chat to see what folks are saying. Where do you think that I would be today based on some of these setbacks? Prison or cemetery? That's probably true, Jesse. Jail. Okay. 1 in 6 Hispanic males born in our country can expect to be incarcerated. And that's 17% of us. My father and my uncles and my mother have all been arrested. 2 of my uncles have done hard time. And for our African-American brothers, it's 1 in 3. In spite of those setbacks, though, I was able to break the cycle of poverty in my family. I am the first male in my family not to be arrested, not to go to jail, and through lots of helping hands, I became a college man and a family man. Then I became a teacher, and eventually I became a curriculum specialist. And in my role of curriculum specialist is where I first learned about the power of project-based learning, or PBL. So for a moment, I do want to define PBL, if that's okay. PBL is a research-based instructional approach, and I want to stop there for a moment. It's a teaching methodology that is rooted in research, and the theoretical framework is from the behavioral and cognitive learning theories. And so teachers can use PBL over an extended period. And that's another thing. Our projects should not be 1 or 2 days. It's an extended period of time to solve real world problems and acquire the skills and dispositions that are needed for successful lives. So in 2014, I joined the Buck Institute for Education, now known as PBL Works, and I became a master PBL teacher and a facilitator. For a decade, I've had the pleasure of coaching educators in PBL throughout the US. And for this purpose, I've been to 28 states and over 70 cities in our country. And today I have a very successful coaching business. I'm a speaker, I'm an author, and I get to help educators improve their work all over the world. And here are my takeaways about STEM and PBL and computer science. Like I said, number 1, PBL is a research-informed way to teach. 2, CS can be taught over time using project-based learning. Learners will need to understand how CS, or computers, impacts everything around them. And 4, our teachers don't have to be experts in computer science to facilitate projects. And here's some data I want you to consider as you plan to teach computer science in your schools, in your districts. Please take a moment. And I want to say thank you. That's it for me. And now we're going to get on to our other presenters. So I want to take a moment to introduce Brandy Stroker and Tamara Billings. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to do it this way. I'm going to have to read their bios if that's okay. Brandy Stroker is an educational leader that strongly advocates for STEM. As executive director of the Tennessee STEM Innovation Network managed by Battelle Education, she has supported state departments of education, local agencies, and national laboratories across our country in developing strategic plans and policy to build capacity in STEM disciplines. Stroker has spent over a decade teaching 6 through 12 science and STEM in high poverty, urban schools, and works to expand opportunities for disadvantaged families and communities. She currently sits on the Smithsonian Science Education Center Advisory Board and seeks to transform education in collaboration with communities across the globe. Stroker holds a bachelor's in biology from the University of Memphis and a master's in educational leadership from the University of Tennessee. And her partner, Tamara Billings, is a relationship manager for the Tennessee STEM Innovation Network. In this role, she focuses on the network's initiatives that further career exploration and advisement. She also routinely supports educators across the state with PD geared towards careers, PBL, and design thinking. She is a former CTE STEM teacher for Memphis Shelby County Schools, and in her 15 years, she has taught middle school science, Project Lead the Way, and served in many STEM leadership roles, including STEM department head, TCEA sponsor, and Microsoft certification coach. These two ladies are dynamic, and take it away.
George, before we move on, though, we have to say thank you for sharing your story. That was an incredible journey that you just took us through from the beginning and how you got curious and excited about computer science. So I just wanted to say thanks for sharing that.
I really felt that it's important that folks see what the power of STEM and CS and PBL can have on a person. So
Absolutely.
I felt I had to tell the story.
And that's why we're all here, because we believe in the power of STEM education and computer science education and project-based learning. And I'm going to attempt to share my screen here so we can get started. All right, can everybody see my screen? Perfect. Okay, so I am going to start with our why. So the Tennessee STEM Innovation Network, we are a public-private partnership between the Tennessee Department of Education and Battelle. And our North Star is to provide programming and supports that build teacher and student STEM identity. And for us, computer science is included in that STEM umbrella. But our goal is to help students and teachers see themselves as STEM learners, help them build their problem-solving skills, and become confident that they can do STEM. And that is really what pushes our organization forward. So just a little bit more about what we do. Like I said, TSIN is a public-private partnership with the Department of Education. We have 7 regional STEM innovation hubs, and I actually have to shout out to Dr. Lange. She is on with us today. She heads up our Northeast Tennessee STEM hub at ETSU, and they do such incredible work. You can see the geographic reach there. They do a lot of specific targeted training and resource curation and development based on regional needs. And then our job as a network is to really expand our STEM portfolio of support statewide. So we have professional development opportunities, we provide resources to classrooms, grants to classrooms, and then because of recent legislation, which we'll talk about in just a minute, we have a significant computer science portfolio. So for us today, we're going to focus on our efforts through that statewide organization lens, because that's really where we sit. All right, so I want to start with our guiding principle, and that is that computer science is foundational to all learners. So exactly what George was saying, students that have backgrounds that maybe, we have not necessarily experienced, they may have gone through some really tough things. Despite all of that, computer science should be an integral part of what they learn every day. It is not simply an area of study for vocational courses. So we say here in our state, computer science is foundational, not vocational. And our state has really backed that up. Computer science is viewed as an academic area in Tennessee with the adoption of our new K-12 academic standards for computer science. So we have a K-12 progression of what that learning looks like. And we'll talk a little bit more about that vision for computer science in Tennessee. But first, I want to show you a short video defining what computer science is from our perspective. Can you all hear that?
Computer science is an adventure.
Computer science is everywhere.
Computer science to me is life.
Computer science is painting with a keyboard.
Computer science is an extremely useful and powerful tool. These computational models can help explain the really, really small things and also the really, really big things.
Computer science is engaging.
Computer science is next level engagement for my pre-K to 3 kids.
Computer science is problem solving and critical thinking.
Computer science is important for all of our kids in Tennessee and not just the ones that are in computer science classes.
Computer science is not scary. We teach a lot of it every single day.
Computer science is more accessible in the classroom than teachers think. It's things you're already doing, it's patterns, it's algorithms.
And your students are capable. Your students can code.
Computer science is a high caliber framework for educators throughout the state of Tennessee.
Computer science is for all learners.
All right, hopefully that inspires you in the way that it inspires me when I see it. We believe computer science is for all learners, from our smallest kindergartners to our tallest graduating seniors. Computer science is a powerful teaching tool, and we've seen really great impact in our state. So I want to talk a bit about all the pieces that had to be in place for us to really push computer science forward. We essentially had to be very intentional about creating a computer science ecosystem that covers a broad range of needs to make this kind of learning accessible to everybody. So when you look at the slide, I'm going to start in the bottom left corner there. So back in 2020, our computer science state plan was created, and it provided recommendations for what needed to be in place in order for us to really push computer science forward. And then in the spring of 2022, Public Chapter 979 was passed, which basically put into law requiring every student to take at least one standalone computer science course in middle and high school with a high school graduation requirement, and the expectation that for K-5, computer science would be integrated into daily instruction. Now, the law doesn't actually go into effect until the 2025 academic year, but we wanted to be real intentional and get ahead of that. And through funding from the Tennessee Department of Education and in collaboration with our counterparts there, we were able to create a really robust portfolio. So we have a no-cost add-on K-12 endorsement for teachers that if they're interested in or if their school needs a teacher of record, they can get this endorsement at no cost to them. The State Board of Education passed our K-12 computer science standards. And then the network actually trained over 500 representatives from nearly every district in the state. I think we're at 92% participation, which is pretty incredible, specifically on computer science integration. And we call that the Reach Them All initiative. So that's a train the trainer model. And we worked really hard to give them everything that they would need. So model lessons, integration videos of teachers and classrooms, district redelivery plans, the whole works. And then the last piece is providing them with a supplemental computer science curriculum. We've got them all hyped up about computer science education. Now, what are they going to do in their classrooms? And so our official approach to instruction across the board with STEM is through the lens of project and problem-based learning. And I'm so glad, George, that you defined those. I didn't think about that as we were putting these together, but you did such a great job explaining that this is research-based with extended time, and computer science can be taught that way. And so when we asked our teacher cohorts to describe what PBL is, we just captured their thinking. These are some of the terms that they used to describe that process. And I think for me, intentional is that big call out, because it really is a targeted effort to create deeper interconnected learning experiences for our students so they can see, why am I learning this thing that I have to learn? But we are very excited to offer this PBL curriculum. It is K-12 across the state, and we're able to offer it through our partnership with Define Learning. And so I want to ask Tamara to hop on so she can talk us through what that curriculum looks like. And Tamara, you can just tell me to go to the next slide when you're ready.
Thanks, Brandy. So as we started to think of ways to approach computer science content for Tennessee, we wanted to find a supplemental resource that would reach K through 12 and include some components of high quality project-based learning. So Defined Learning is providing that by supplying us with this portfolio of computer science content that's organized by grade bands, as you see on the screen here. And each of these grade bands has units that are aligned to ISTE, the International Society for Technology and Education, and to CSTA, Computer Science Teachers Association standards. Next slide. All right, so the content's broken into 4 or 5 units that are also directly aligned to our Tennessee state standards. And so this supplemental PBL curriculum gives our teachers a starting point on how to engage with these new computer science standards. And again, it's through project-based learning. It's also very important as a career piece because it's embedded throughout the lessons, because it gives our students an opportunity to learn about related careers in computer science as well, and in different STEM careers. So that happens to be a win-win for us because we have that focus based on our computer science legislation, but we also have a big career awareness focus as well. Next slide. So the next few slides, I just wanted to share with you some of the touch points. You might have to click play, Brandy. I thought it would start automatically. Oh, wow. Okay. Well, I wanted to share some of the touch points. You'll get to hear about them. When you go into Defined Learning, if you're familiar with Defined Learning, it has that slide deck like you see at the top of the slide here, where students have that slide deck where they're introduced to our project-based computer science activities. And each project starts with that introduction where students are given a hook and a scenario, and it lays out the problem, and it gives them those real-world connections, some career spotlights, research questions, and a little bit of vocabulary to get them interested and into the project. There's also some checkpoints, which are embedded questions throughout, where we can probe students with inquiry and critical thinking. And there's great resources for teachers as well. One of my favorites being the teacher notes, because a lot of us know we get in the classroom. When's the last time we had a computer science class? Probably 20 years ago, right? So each one of these projects starts with those teacher notes that you can kind of get yourself refreshed on the topics. And then there's some rubrics that are embedded that give you a basic foundation for project-based learning and how to structure your lesson. But you can also customize those rubrics as well and make them what you need them to be. So this resource really works for our educators because you can jump in at any level of project-based learning implementation that you're at. And it's really a turnkey resource for us where teachers can jump in no matter where they are and get a solid understanding of PBL structure and how PBL functions. Next slide. All right, so our standards. Our standards are connected through our core content and our computer science standards, like mentioned before. And one of our elementary computer science standards involves students being able to communicate key ideas and being able to take research and information and be able to inform and persuade through digital tools. So for example, the lesson that you're looking at here, the wildlife biologist lesson, they're able to address this standard by using different digital resources to look up different topics. And then they have to use those same digital tools to create some type of product to share with a targeted audience. So all of these projects that you'll see in our computer science package comes with 3 to 4 different work products that students can choose from. So they can do one of the activities or choose to do all 3 or 4. But these products can be anything from posters to digital presentations, drawings, models, photo stories, infographics, you name it. So for example, in this lesson though, with the wildlife lesson, students have to design a web page that they can use to just share with the park visitors what the park is about. They can create a brochure that teaches the visitors about the natural environment. And they can also create a video that teaches the park visitors about the impact of different invasive species. So students are given many ways to practice and use their digital readiness and computer science skills in this project. And last but not least, those career connections, again, a big focus for us, are made by way of the real world connections and the roles that kids are introduced to in the projects. They're able to watch a short video clip. It's usually about 2 minutes, and it highlights people working in different STEM career fields that are connected to that project's topic. So for example, in the wildlife biologist project, they were introduced to a biologist, a zoologist, a park ranger, and a research scientist. So again, just a host of careers for students to learn about and engage with as well. Next slide. So I just wanted to wrap up by sharing that I enjoyed being a teacher using Defined Learning for project-based learning in my class. And I'm so excited about our partnership, TSIN, with Defined Learning, and how we're taking computer science and project-based learning and bringing it together in a meaningful way that kind of supports our students in Tennessee to be that next generation of creative thinkers and doers. And that's it for me. So I'll toss it back over to Brandy and we'll take questions.
Yeah, no, you explained that beautifully. I just wanted to add, I think, George, back to your initial description of connecting that learning to something students are actually interested in, something that is right in front of them and that they can experience through the world around them is really important. So having this resource available for our state has been incredible. So yeah, we're very excited for the partnership.
Yeah, definitely. And I was in your role since 2007 to 2017. And I'm doing CTE, doing STEM, computer science, and I was supporting teachers, TSA, all of that. And Defined Learning came to visit me, and I was getting ready to sign up. They had a robust STEM curriculum, not like now. It was robust back then, and it was PBL. And I went solo and did my own thing, but I can definitely see where you ladies have taken this, and they've leveled up as well. You know, Defined Learning has really increased their PBL offerings, and you guys have taken that and made a tandem that's just fantastic. We do have questions, but would you mind if we field them all together at the end? Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I just wanted to throw our contact info up there if you're interested in reaching out about anything. And I wanted to encourage folks to visit our computersciencetn.org site. There's a lot of state level data that might be of interest to you. And then if you're interested in the Reach Them All or the endorsement pathway, anything that we chatted about, it will all be located there.
Hey, Trey, and I do see your question about adapting curriculum and the standards, and we will ask that at the end. All righty, so please stop sharing so I can share. And now we're going to turn this over to Ken Kirby. But before we do that, I would like to read his bio, if that's okay. All right, so let me just make sure I'm not messing anything up. So Ken currently serves as a school improvement specialist for Marshall County Schools. He has been in this role for over 5 years. And prior to this, he worked 11 years for the Alabama State Department of Education as a regional literacy consultant and has a background in both elementary curriculum and assessments. He is also the acting vice president of the Alabama Committee for Grade Level Reading and is the elementary digital literacy computer science liaison for his school district. And that was a mouthful. All right, Ken, take it away.
Awesome. Thanks, George. Appreciate that. And while I'm trying to pull my screen up, I just want to say one or two things, you know, to reiterate what Brandy had stated. You know, the opportunity that you shared your story and your journey with everyone has just been really uplifting to hear that today. And I think I have a direct connection with that to so many of the students that we see inside of our schools that get a chance to benefit from PBL and computer science instruction, and you can just see them thrive. Some of our most vulnerable kids, teachers will come up to us and say, you know, I had no idea that they really had these types of capabilities or this level of thinking, and they're just so astounded by it. So that was really uplifting to hear that. And a few connections with what Brandy and Tamara was sharing too. We have new digital literacy and computer science standards in Alabama now as well. And so I'll touch on that that briefly as I present a few things to everyone about our journey. And you know, like Brandy mentioned, I love that about that it's not vocational, it's foundational. That is such an important phrase. I'm going to steal that one. I'm going to use it, Brandy, moving forward. I like it. But let me go ahead and share and kind of take everybody through some of the things that we've experienced, you know, in jumping into PBL and partnering with Defined over the past couple of years. So hopefully my slideshow will cooperate. So I work in Marshall County as school improvement specialist. I've done this, as George mentioned, for 5 years. It was something that, you know, I've always had a calling to kind of go and work in education. My previous career was actually working in environmental science and health. So I'm very science minded. And so when someone at the district level a couple of years ago said, hey, we need someone that's really going to kind of, you know, head up and spearhead, you know, the PBL and computer science movement, I immediately raised my hand. I said, you know, I'd like to do that. I'd like to, you know, be front and center and try to lead educators across K-12 to be able to kind of know the importance of it. And then also to really just help, you know, shine a light on how critical it is for students. We have an amazing superintendent in Marshall County that she goes above and beyond and understands the importance of preparing kids for not only college, but also for career as well. We have a really massive tech school here, and it's actually undergoing some large expansion with one of our local community colleges. And so things are really looking up in Marshall County for the opportunities that students are going to have, not just from our school district. We have actually 4 other city systems that send their students to our career tech school for opportunities to learn so much more about robotics, to learn, you know, more about, you know, automotive, to learn so many things that can help them in preparing for college and career. So I'm fortunate, is what I'm trying to say, fortunate to be in a great place to work with great people. So couldn't do it by myself. So just a real quick glimpse at, you know, how Marshall County is arranged. We have some interesting configurations for schools, to say the least. We do have 4 different feeder patterns, that being Brindley Mountain, DAR, Douglas, and Asbury, and we have 12 total schools with that 1 career tech center. So lots of different configurations, lots of opportunities out there. And when it comes to the, you know, the dynamics in our population, you know, we have a pretty large population of EL students. You can see that here. We have about 23% student in our district that are Hispanic. Those are primarily within 2 of our feeder patterns. So as you would imagine, you know, we have a lot more things that we do in those patterns to support students who are at risk, because we have such a larger population of students who are vulnerable and at risk in those 2 patterns. Overall, free and reduced, you know, we have a lot of poverty in Marshall County, so there's a huge need. And going back to what George had mentioned earlier, just opening the world to students, I think that's what we do through PBL, more so than just anything else. You know, we give them that opportunity to be creative and be analyzers of ideas and problems, and especially real world problems. We just bring the world to them. We have lots of students in our district, as I'm sure many people on the webinar today have, that, you know, for them, sometimes, you know, a field trip is simply going to the mall. And so they don't get a chance to be able to go and experience so many things that maybe other students get to that come from more affluent backgrounds. So PBL is a way to bring the world to them in a way that engages them and makes them excited about learning. And so since day one, you know, this has been our goal. This was, you know, I was charged to lead this effort. And one of the main things that really kind of came from those early conversations when we said, you know, what's going to be our mission with PBL and supporting students in computer science and STEM is to really help them to just be so much better at their problem solving skills and their computational thinking abilities. And so it's one of those deals where, you know, things have definitely grown and accelerated, but we had to start slow. It wasn't anything that we just went, you know, full tilt and just jumped in and went, you know, 100 miles per hour. We knew, and most people know that work at district level understand that just forcing things down individuals' throats is something that's not going to really take hold, and you're going to have to really work to understand the why. That's a big part of it. And so I'll talk a little bit about, you know, those areas in just a second that really kind of spurred this whole effort on. But as you can see, there'll be a couple of pictures that'll be strewn throughout the slideshow of just some of our students that are engaged in defined learning units. You can see here's the beekeeper unit where they were actually using some bee-bots to do some coding and everything, and just kind of making those connections with all of our resources, which our STEM teachers and classroom teachers that engage with this, they are very smart about that, and I think we just continue to get more and more adept as we move along with support and with opportunities to collaborate. And so I mentioned this just a second ago, is these were the factors that really led to, you know, the things that we're trying to do from an initiative standpoint with PBL and our district. So cross-content proficiency gaps. I'd be lying if I told you that our data was immaculate and amazing. It's not. We know that we have areas for growth. We have seen an uptick in our proficiency in the last couple of years, for sure. We know what happened, you know, with COVID and all really kind of threw us back a little bit, but we're starting to really kind of turn the corner and make some really good gains. But aside from that, you know, regardless of what we went through when we had the shutdowns and we were in remote learning, we already had issues with students who struggled in math, who struggled in science, who struggled in reading. And so what we've came to understand and realize really early on is how big of a role PBM, STEM-based opportunities, computer science applications and opportunities and instruction through that has something that really helps them to engage and learn things so that it helps them across all content areas. So that was a big part of why we are doing what we've began a couple of years ago. Collaborative inquiry. I think all of us, if I were to ask you to you know, give a thumbs up in the chat on this, I think we would see a lot of thumbs up. But we know that our students live in a very distracted world. We know that now more so than ever that there's a lack of language that we tend to see inside of classrooms, a lack of opportunities for students to talk and share. And so going back to this idea about our students, especially the ones who are most vulnerable, they need opportunities to be able to do that, because that only enhances and accelerates their learning. And through PBL, right, it's a natural piece that by teaching in that manner, what do? Well, we create opportunities for students to come together, to work in partnerships, to work in groups, to present, to talk, to share, to create, to problem solve, to revise, right? And so that's one of the huge, you know, parts of this is that when I go in and see students actually engaged in these types of instructional opportunities, there's just a natural buzz around the room, as there should be. And so that's something, it's almost kind of like a two-tier effect, to where students get a chance to do that, teachers get a chance to engage them in that way. And so guess what happens in the other content areas that the teachers teach? Well, they provide more opportunities for students to collaborate, which is what we want. Because as I said a minute ago, it's a very distracted world and a very isolated world for some of our students that really sometimes don't have anyone to talk to, or they really talk just through their devices. So digital competency expectations is another one. This kind of goes back to, you know, what Brandy had mentioned, is that we have, you know, new digital literacy and computer science standards that Alabama is expected to implement. We actually had those kind of land last year. Truth be told, we were probably supposed to be working to implement them in a pilot year the year before that, but as with many things, we sometimes kind of are slow to start because of some of the resources and also just timeliness of trying to be able to kind of get things up off the ground. But we knew then that we have students who are going to be expected to do things, you know, from a computer-based standpoint that was going to be a challenge for them. It was going to be rigorous. And so when you look at those standards, there's some high expectations in there. And many teachers or many STEM teachers as well might look at that and go, well, I'm really just not sure my students can do this. Well, guess what? They can. They can through good, solid, direct instruction and having the opportunities and the reps to be able to do it and do it well with the aid and support of peers and with the aid and support of their teacher. So that's something that we knew was a big piece that we had to try to tackle with this. And then lastly, the college and career preparedness. We have a ton of students in Marshall County that go on to a lot of the jobs in our local area, which are very career-oriented jobs. And we have students that leave our career tech center and move on to jobs straight out of high school, straight out after graduating with certificates that go and make a lot of money. And they do it because of the opportunities they've had to be in problem-based learning situations within the career tech. And so when I was talking to our superintendent, when we really started to kind of get this up off the ground, I was like, how amazing and how valuable is this going to be that we begin this with kindergarten students, that we begin being able to kind of unlock the world for them and to be able to kind of show them how things work. Going back to George's example of going back to realizing, hey, it's not a hidden thing. It's not just learn it to learn it, but learn it because you want to do something with it and understand the whole inner workings behind it. And so the college and career preparedness is a valuable piece and will continue to be a valuable piece moving forward. We're excited about that. I know our career tech individuals who are over there know what we're doing down in the lower grades, and they're like, we can't wait to have those students move up to our school one day, so that they're just going to be so much more advanced, so much more proficient with the things that they're going to be asked to do over there. So excited to see that happen. And so next, I wanted to kind of share a little bit about our journey with Defined and just problem-based learning overall. I'll try to do this, fairly quickly as I chronicle it. But, we started back in the winter of 2022, maybe a little bit before that, and of course, in the planning phases. But we pulled all of our STEM teachers and got them on board with Defined Learning, introductory training to give them the skill set and the resources necessary in order to be able to start to plan and engage in really rich PBL lessons with students. So we did that. And then we immediately jumped into a PBL champions cohort with Defined Learning, which went really well with our STEM teachers. That cohort, most of the cohorts I would say that we've done with Defined involve, collaboration with the team, and then they'll take back ideas for what they're going to use for projects, and they will bring back artifacts and examples of how those projects went and talk about what they might do differently. So it's really a PLC. It really is something that helps them to kind of grow and share across schools with different projects. And what ends up happening is, our STEM teachers that might be, 30 miles in another direction at a different school see other projects that another STEM teacher is doing. They're like, ooh, I'm going to steal that, or I can do this with my students, but I'm going to adapt it this way. And so that's what we want to do, is really just kind of help that collaboration, across the district. And the PBL cohort has really been something that has been valuable for that. We also trained all of our summer camp teachers. So we include STEM and PBL inside of our summer camp schedule each year. We will do it again this year with the help of Defined. And all of our summer camp teachers, classroom teachers, it could be aides, typical aides, it might be media specialists, it might be EL teachers, whoever is going to be teaching in summer camp gets a chance to be able to engage in training with Defined Learning. And so that only equips them to be better PBL teachers in the future. And so we'll end up doing that again this year, but we began it last year, and it was a big success. Our kids, we had good attendance as a result of that, because we made, for more fun and engaging activities during the summer camp day, and that helped us to be able to get kids in and also to keep students coming. And then when it comes to as far as in-person training, we had trainers that actually came down last August to be able to do some in-service training with our STEM teachers. And we focused that primarily on helping them to really do some exact planning, or as exact as we could get it at that time. It's always, a work in progress. We always like to talk about how when we start to pace and plan for units and lessons, that it's draft, like just write draft all over the top of it, because we're continually thinking about how we might do something different, how we might pace something different, how we might have different tasks or different ways for students to show their learning. But we did that back in last August, and we really helped the STEM teachers and Defined Learning's trainers help the STEM teachers to think about how to choose good projects that tied to our standards, and also to see how one project might be able to teach way more than just one standard. And so that's been a really important piece. We're going to continue that effort. That's something that I think is a really big learning curve, especially when you have new standards, you have new products, you have a new platform, you have new resources. You're continually trying to think about how can I make all these pieces fit to do what's best for students. So that is definitely going to be continuing as we move forward. This past fall and winter, we also provided district and State Department provided training to our media specialists and STEM teachers. So we've actually pulled in our media specialists to be more a part of our computer science implementation for students. They see classrooms of students each and every day within the schools. And so we actually had our AMSTI affiliates from UAH, which is a college that's probably about an hour from here, who we have direct support from the State Department on, and that is the Alabama Math Science Tech Initiative. And so they actually were able to come and provide digital literacy and computer science professional development training, and we worked on pacing again. You can kind of see the theme there. We're working on really trying to figure out what's going to be the best units to teach and when. And then finally, we will do another PBL cohort. Actually, we did a PBL cohort this spring with our STEM teachers. Another one, this was a leadership cohort, went really well. We had lots of good evidence and good artifacts shared from our STEM teachers to be able to bring back things that they had done with different defined learning units. And it went really well. Have plans to do more of those cohorts in the future too. So as you can see, and I'll touch on this at the end too, but support's where it's at. You know, it's one of those deals where if you're going to do something, then by all means try to do it well, and confiding in the experts and confiding in those people that are a direct line of support to the district level, to the school level, to the classroom level is something that we don't want to shortchange. Just to say, here, good luck, you know, take this and do your best with it. I think we leave a lot to chance, and we actually don't set teachers up for success, and in turn we fail students in that way. So finding something and then investing in it, investing in the time and the funding in order to do it well is what we're about. And I was talking to George recently, and he was like, you know, do you have plans to kind of bring some things to the table from, you know, the people who do the work each and every day? And so I'm going to share with you a couple of quotes and a couple of videos from some of our STEM teachers. And you can see this one. This is Miss Tally at Brindley Mountain Primary, and I'll let you read her quote. But you know, she's an amazing STEM teacher that she used to actually be in the music. Had like a music career, and she felt kind of a calling to come back and support students and you know, really being innovative and be, you know, outside of the box thinkers. And when she saw that there was a STEM position open, she was like, I want to do that. And she's just jumped in, you know, head first and just done such an amazing job with her K2 students in that school. And then Miss Lauren Sims, who is, she works in a 3-5 configured school. Lauren has a background in middle school ELA and also in middle school science. And she heard about a 3-5 opportunity for STEM, and she was like, I'm all in, let's do it. I want to be a part of that. And she's done amazing work with those 3-5 students in her school. I think, you know, one of the most important things that, you know, she mentions in here, as you can see in that last sentence, is that, you know, it's about flexibility. I think maybe Brandy touched on that, you know, it's not something that's just black and white. It doesn't fit nicely into a box. That's not what PBL is. You know, we have to understand that, you know, flexibility, teacher creativity is something that only enhances, you know, what students are able to be able to experience in the classroom. And then next up will be Karen Wright. And Karen, she works at Sloman Primary. She's a K2 STEM teacher. She's one of the most amazing individuals you would ever meet. I usually go to Karen if I have questions. So if I'm trying to think of ideas or I need to just kind of toss something around, I'll just call Karen. I'll be like, what do you think about this? And so she's really a great asset to have in that manner. So I'm just going to play a little short video of just her testimony about working with Define and what her kids have experienced.
Hello, my name is Karen, and I've been using Define Learning since last summer. This is an amazing resource for my STEM classes. All of the projects are based on a situation or an event in a career. These projects are geared toward the grade level you choose and really engage the students in their own learning. They take serious ownership of their projects and presenting them. I like that careers are presented in STEM fields throughout all the levels. The professional development has been very thorough and helps me feel comfortable using defined learning and pushed me out of my comfort zone by helping me grow as a more confident STEM teacher. Introducing students to their own intrinsic motivation to persevere and strive to be their best and dream big concerning their own interests and career possibilities has been very exciting for me. Thank you, Defined Learning, for being so awesome.
So yeah, you can see hard not to love Karen. She's such a go-getter and so awesome to be able to know that she's there, each and every day to support students in that K2 configured school. And then I think lastly, I think I've got Miss Mary Waterhouse. Now, Mary is an extremely accomplished STEM teacher. She leads up elementary school robotics and also high school robotics teams, compete. They win. They go out there and get it done. They are very successful, and she has high expectations, and kids rise to the occasion. But she's an amazing teacher. I can't say enough about her. She's another one that if I need something, if I'm looking for a resource, she's like, I got it. If I'm trying to find something in our Google Drive, which is massive and expansive, she's like, here, Ken, here's the link. She's so fast at being able to communicate and collaborate on all things STEM and PBL. So I'm going to share her video, and I think that'll kind of get us close to wrapping up. So let's see what Mary has to say.
Yes, I'm Mary Waterhouse, and I just wanted to say a few things about Defined Learning. First of all, I'd like to thank Defined Learning for all of their support. The cohort that I was in was a wonderful learning experience. They not only gave us support, but they also gave teachers time to collaborate with each other so we could use each other's ideas from projects that we had completed. The Defined Learning platform is excellent for building critical thinking, problem solving, cross-curricular skills. Every project encompasses a wide variety of standards in multiple subject areas. Students are 100% engaged. They not only do reading and writing and math, but they also do research projects, and they learn about careers. Thank you very much, Defined Learning, for all of your help.
Awesome. Love Mary. If you were to walk into Mary's class, Mary's one of those that if I call and ask Mary, I'm like, hey, are you using this resource? She's like, I'm using that one and 50 others. She has so many things that are at her fingertips. She's written so many grants, and they have so many more opportunities within that school, which brings up an important point. We've been working with an outside third party to do a little bit of research and do some surveys within our schools to try to find out, do we have equitable opportunities across all of our schools? And of course, what we've discovered is that's not necessarily the case. So, a big mission for us moving forward into next year and beyond is to try to make things more equitable. We have schools that, again, like Mary, who have written so many grants, and when you go out there, they have so many other resources than compared to some of our other schools. So we're going to be working on that because we want all students at all of our schools to have those same types of opportunities and for no one to get shortchanged on that. So that's just an important point that I thought would be definitely worth mentioning as something that we've seen kind of as a stumbling block, but we've got some ideas of how we can start to work to overcome that and problem solve ourselves. And then, what's next for us? We have more summer camp training that's coming up. Define's going to help us with that, and doing some training with our teachers. They're going to be leading students to be better at reading, to be better at math, and then also just to be better problem solvers through PBL opportunities this summer. We'll do another another digital literacy computer science school team training this fall as we kind of work our way back after summer break. And then we have plans to engage in another PBL cohort next year with the help of Define. So lots of good things to come, and probably more bullets that we could add there that may not even be known to me quite yet. So we'll just kind of take it as we go and see if we can make things, be better for all of our schools and teachers and students. And so I just want to say thanks. I appreciate the opportunity for Define to, allowing me to be able to share the things that we've done. It's not perfect. It hasn't been perfect. I'd be lying if I said that, but we definitely have tried to put our best foot forward and equip, all of our educators with what they need, give them time to work, and then also, shine a spotlight on the great work that they're doing. Like, for instance, in our reptile house unit right here that we see, our kiddos that enjoy being a part of that. So if you have any questions, or if you need to know anything else, related to our journey, I'm happy to share. There's my contact info, and I'll toss it back to George.
So before fielding questions, I think we have to give them some virtual snaps. Can everyone put some virtual snaps into the chat? Those were fantastic presentations. Fantastic. I'm going to share my screen again, and I definitely have some questions that I'm fielding from the audience. I want to give a shout out to Andrew Schaefer. Andrew was in the chat answering questions. Thank you, sir. Yeah, so before moving forward though, we have a housekeeping item. All of the viewers, live viewers, will receive a PD certificate in your email within the next 24 hours. I will repeat that. Live viewers will receive a PD certificate in your email in the next 24 hours. Our first question is for Tamara. How are you approaching PD for educators statewide?
Thank you, George, for that question. We have started a statewide initiative where we have really traveled across the state, and we've done some training, full day PD, where teachers are coming and they're getting a full day of an immersion experience where they take a deep dive into that Define Learning computer science curriculum, and they're able to work with the DL trainers. And like Ken mentioned, they get to actually plan a lesson as well, and work with some teachers in their area to create a PBL, or just work with some of the PBL content with the computer science. So again, about 30 educators in about 7 cities across the state of Tennessee is how we've been implementing our professional development around the curriculum.
Thank you, Tamara. Thank you so much. Next question is for Brandy. How are you onboarding teachers?
Yes, and Tamara will have to help me out here because she does the day-to-day of that. She is the expert. But I would say, we work really closely with the Define Learning team, and they help us identify district level leadership to make sure we're connected within their IT space. And then, it's really great because they're automatically, I'm going to get it wrong, but there is an API integration into like the district access. So it's already ready when they open their computers for them. But we've done a lot of training, like Tamara mentioned, and every time we get the chance to share this resource, we do. So we have 2 conferences statewide, one in December and one in May. So we always do sessions and kind of shout from the rooftops that this is available. And then we've also integrated this into our Reach Them All training, which I mentioned is focused on that integration piece. So we're trying to meet them where they're at, and all the touch points we can find, we're going to use them. But Tamara, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that, access kind of looks different just depending on where you are across the state. So it depends on your district. There's 4 different ways you can have access. It's either through Clever, like Brandy mentioned, or ClassLink, Google, or it could be just an email and password. But all teachers have to do is reach out to our wonderful Tennessee representative for Define Learning with some basic information. And it's usually like their email address and their name and what school they're at. And then they're supported with whatever access their district is going with.
And I do want to reiterate the importance, as these ladies just said, of having administrators, folks that are responsible for supervising PBL and computer science, and getting them trained. That's an important thing. And so it's not like they're implementing PBL, but they're definitely supporting. So I really love those answers. Ladies, thank you so much. Both of you are amazing, and you're doing amazing work, and we definitely commend you. All right, 2 more questions, and they're for Ken. What are the top things to consider when launching a PBL initiative in your district or school?
Oh, that's a great question. I can list out a few, not an all-inclusive list by no means, but I think gradual implementation is key. I touched on that, that you have to kind of go slow to go fast. That's an important piece. Don't get ahead of yourself. Don't try to push too fast. And the way if you're moving too quickly is you're continually asking for feedback, right? You need to continually collaborate with those people who are in the trenches, who are doing the work or in the trainings. You have to kind of ask them, or are we ready to move forward to this, or do we need to wait? I think just investing in good professional development and support, having that from the onset, and saying, if we're going to do it, then we're going to jump in and we're going to do it with a small contingency of products, a small contingency of vendors. There's so many things that pull. I mean, the amount of emails that I get each and every day of, hey, look at this, or hey, do this. Those are distractors. So that's kind of a stumbling block. It's a distractor that sometimes can kind of pull you away. But once you find something like we did with Defined, we jumped in and we'll continue to work, with that, and our teachers get comfortable with it. And so there's no need to try to find something else once you've got something that really does work. And then I think, to what was touched on just a second ago is making sure that there's a clear line of communication with administrators, not just district level administrators, but school level administrators, making sure that they know what's happening in these trainings. They're invited to these trainings. They are a part of the collaborative experiences that our teachers, engage in when it comes to PBL, and trying to plan for implementation. That's a big one. And just being flexible, above all else, just be flexible. That's something I've had to learn the hard way. I'm very concrete sequential. I like things to be, exactly done a specific way. I'm a rule follower, and I've had to kind of soften that over the years. So.
All right, Ken. So you've mentioned stumbling blocks, right? So someone has asked, what are some stumbling blocks that are certain that others will encounter, and what would be helpful so that we can be mindful of those?
Yeah, there's definitely a large number, I would sure. And I think I mentioned, the distractors, right? Just a second ago, you can get pulled in a lot of different directions if you're not careful. So having a vision and sticking to that vision is going to be inherently important. Trusting those people that you have, whether it's the individuals that we have with Defined or the individuals that we have, with our State Department of Ed that provide professional development, trusting that, they're going to be able to work with us and provide good quality support to help our teachers to grow and to learn, to understand the science behind all of it, I think is very important. You'll also we encounter a lot of fixed mindsets. What is this? This is just one more thing. Like, why is this important? Well, these students are in elementary school. Why do they need to learn this? And so we've had to kind of break down some walls and some barriers with that. And the best way to break down those walls is to really dig into the why and make sure that individuals understand why this is critical, why it's important, that it is really about a lifelong opportunity for students that you create and give them hope and give them opportunities that they might otherwise not have been able to see or achieve. And then I think lastly, I touched on this a minute ago, one of our stumbling blocks has just been the equitable resources. We have schools that have a lot, and we have schools that have a little, and we've got to try to work to try to make sure that that's more balanced in the future. But it's been something that has, caused us to kind of slip up and trip a little bit. And then lastly, I think just various school structures. If you remember from the first slide I showed you, we have a lot of different configurations. Each of those schools has different levels of student populations. And so how schedules work and time for students to engage in PBL learning and bringing teachers on board and new teachers, it's just that's always going to be a stumbling block. That's never going away. So we just have to embrace that challenge and see it as an opportunity.
Well, thank you so much. I know we went over the hour limit already. I want to thank our panelists. Most importantly, we want to thank the viewers. Thank you for tuning in, even those that are not live with us that will tune in. Thank you very much. And lastly, Defined Learning. Thank you for this amazing opportunity in having us work together, fellowship together, and spread amazing practices. Thank you.